What? Oh, how were they? Scintillating, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, welcome to PAST THE RINGS, volume 86. Today we're going to be talking about the mятеж Synodus Horrenda Split cassette that came out on July 8th of 2016? 2017. So close. Okay. So the history behind this goes back to something quite specific. So let's backtrack here. In 2016, mятеж went on our second tour, which we could even, like, mini tour. It was 4 shows, including 4? Yes, 3? No, it was 4 shows, I think, including a fest. Swamp Fest 2. It was awesome. So, anyway, our first show was with Como Regalia, Massanera, What of Us, and then we had another show with Lessener and Weak Teeth. And then for the fest, we got to play with... Who did we play with? We played with Weak Wrists, Supine, The Catalyst. Not too bad. And the third show on that one was the Scramden Yard show in Baltimore. That was so it was put on by a few people. I'm not even sure who specifically it was, but I think Nick and June were living in the house that we played in, Scramden Yards, not to be confused with the Scramden Yards in Toronto. Dick Necker, and June both played in a band called Stale, as well as a bunch of other bands. But if you haven't checked out Stale, they only had 1 track, and it's really, really good. So it checks. Nick was super nice, and upon entering was just ridiculously friendly. June, a bit of a story there. She saved my life because during that show, well, beforehand I hadn't eaten for a very long time, and as you'll see in the video later after this little talking thing, I went a little nuts, I guess, and didn't really hold back. So all of that stress on my body made me jet puke in the bathroom, into their bathtub. Sorry, and thank the Lord for June, who just happened to have some of my favorite anti-nauseant on hand, and wow, that was very helpful. So thank you again, June. Always thank you for that. The band also has Robert Hansen, who drums in Islet and drummed in Mishka. Something coming. And there was a 4th member, I don't remember their name. Anyway, they made up Synodus Horrenda, and at the time of the show, nearly certain that Robbie told me, we've only had 2 or 3 practices. So I remember at least once during the set they kind of looked around and they were like, what's next? What's happening again? But honestly, like, had I not heard that, and then I was told, like, after the show, I would have been like, whoa, that was really good, especially for 2 to 3 practices. So this was their only material. Oh, okay, no, I'm gonna get ahead of myself here. They sound kind of like Page 99, The South, Hugs, kind of raw, dirty, unhinged, late 90s stuff. So because of that show, I should mention as well, that was a great show. I think if I look back at any show that I've ever played in terms of crowd interactivity, it was by far the most fun. And the second last song, Chris started doing some screaming, so I kind of passed the mic over, and he grabbed it. He heard screaming. And when he was done, he's like threw it on the floor and broke the mic. So we were trying to like fix it, and you can see on the video, if you watch the full set, which is like 12 minutes, it just cuts out all of a sudden because we were trying to figure out what to do, and then it comes back, and we played the last song, That Plant Gets Me, on a deeply personal level, with no microphone. So another reason probably why I jet puked into the bathtub almost directly after that song. So yeah, after that show, they asked us if we wanted to do a split. I don't remember if it was like, I think it was at the show they asked, do you want to do a split? So this is the only material by Synodus Horrenda that I'm aware of. They did 5 songs. One of them has a very long title. I think it's my favorite track too. So if I remember it, somewhere along the line, something went terribly wrong, and now Mr. Burns is my favorite Simpsons character. Nailed it. So the reason that I remember that is because with such a long title, silly me chose to write out all of the tracks with a marker on the back of 50 different photographs that I had. I was basically going to toss out a bunch of old photos. So I found some ones that I thought were, I don't know, semi-decent, and folded and cut those around so they could be used as like kind of a jacket. And I got these sleeves, essentially, that fit tapes really well. Thanks, Olin from Friendly Otter, for showing me that. So, right. These ones came with the download code. I remember duplication.ca had a thing going on where it's like, free download codes. And then I didn't know that they stopped it. So I found out later on I was paying like $60, like $1 per download card. So that was bad news. That was a long time ago. I'm sure they're not that expensive anymore. So the tapes are all just straight black. So like I said, they all have different covers, and then the inside would be all of the tracks and stuff like that. So I almost didn't get one of these. Just happened to be one left in the distro, in the store or whatever, and I was like, I need to do this. I'll pass the rings. I couldn't find one in my personal collection. I was like, oh no! Went upstairs, one left, and luckily it's the one that is of my wife, swimming with a fish face. So I'm very glad I personally get to keep that one. Mятеж had 2 tracks on this one, kind of standard Mятеж at that time. Vocals not that great. I listen to it now and I'm like, those are better than the first few recordings, but they're not to where I felt comfortable. Maybe 2 or 3 recordings after this. First track is about my friend Wayne, actually, who passed away a few years ago. This song was written right when he was diagnosed with lung cancer. Yeah, he fought that for quite a few years, but left behind a wife and 2 daughters, 2 young daughters. So that really sucked. And I remember for a little while there, it looked like he was going to get better too, kind of maybe a year after this song, and then it was just, yeah, it was a lot of bad news. Anyway, I miss you, Wayne. I love you. So that one's got some clean singing. I think it's like the longest song we ever did. I think it might even eclipse 5 minutes. I guess there's a song on the Calude split that's longer than that, but only because it's mostly a piano outro. Where am I going here? The second track, The Truth About Human Design, is way more orchid and kind of just, I guess, more the general like fast style of Mятеж, but the end of the song again has that like dreamy outro thing. So pretty par for the course, I would say. When I was in New Zealand, right when this first came out, like right after, for some reason I had one of the physical cassettes with me when I showed up in New Zealand after the plane, and the car that we rented for 2 weeks only had a cassette player and a radio, and I don't listen to the radio, so I listened to this physical cassette so many times. I have no idea where that one is. I think I probably gave it to someone in New Zealand. So, like, yeah, I definitely got my money's worth out of this tape because I listen to it all the time in New Zealand. The last 15 of these I put off for years, probably 3 years before I finally made them, and it was because of the titles and trying to cut the pictures down and fold them around, and ended up splitting a couple of the sleeves. It was no fun. Anyway, they're all sold out because I took the last one. I don't think the U.S. store has any. I'm giving most of these away, to be completely honest. I think it's a pretty good split. I definitely like the Synodus side. Even right, the digital cover is different because there was no reason to make cover art because every tape just had its own cover. So I thought about taking a picture of one of the covers, like, nah, let's do something from the show, because that show was the entire reason the split happened. So if you look at the online digital version, it's just 2 photos pulled from the video that I took, with like some really horrible text over it, including a slanted pink split cassette right down the middle. Oh my god, I really hope I was trying to make that funny, because otherwise that's just fucking terrible. Alright, laughter aside, I guess let's just watch the last song from mятеж, because it's like my favorite video probably of all the mятеж videos, with no mic, and then we'll watch Synodus video too, because that'll be pretty short, and I'll be back next time for, I think it's the King Slender second self-titled cassette. But until next time, I guess I'll just watch these videos in that nice little fade out like I did last time, because I'm an unoriginal fan.